Hi there, I'm Rion and welcome to Apostate Coalition. As you know, here on Apostate Coalition, our hope is to bring you many different people from all walks of life affected by high control religion, but who are now deciding that it's okay and it's safe to ask questions. Before we get to the videos that I have found that I am sure you're going to find entertaining, I promised that I would show what I am wearing, which is this huge, comfy, cozy, long, hooded thingy-mabobber. So I am going to get comfy and cozy, settle on in, and we're gonna have a little sippy and watch a few videos and enjoy each other's company. First, let's get to the intro, and then we'll get to it. Stick around.
Tomorrow's a new day. I will find a way. What if this was your destiny? All that pain just so you could see.
Welcome back. You know, as an ex-Jehovah's Witness, I often used to think that we did some very strange things, had some very interesting, to say the least, beliefs. But when I listen to other people who are coming out and speaking about their experiences, I find out that even though it's weird, it's different, there are other people who are living very parallel lives doing other difficult, weird things and believing strange beliefs. Just listen to this one, for instance. It's about underwear. Whatever. I don't even know what to say about that.
They sure do. We've actually made several videos on these, most of which are saved in our highlighted stories on the Instagram page. Those videos go into a lot more detail, but I'll give just kind of a brief synopsis. When you go through the temple, you are given special underwear called garments. They cover your shoulders and go down to your knees. They have special symbols sewn into them to remind you of the covenants that you made in the temple, and you covenant to wear those garments day and night.
You know, that kind of reminds me of like witchcraft and sigils. Okay.
I wore that underwear for almost a decade. So choosing my own underwear now is wonderful. But like originally taking my garments off and choosing my own underwear was terrifying. Wow. I thought I was going to like burst into flames or get hit by a car or something because the garments are supposed to protect you. But instead of protecting me, it actually gave me chronic infections in my lady parts. So that's all cleared up now.
Something that is heavily...
Okay. You know, there's some things that we just take for granted, not realizing. Okay, so I couldn't buy anything provocative when it came to underwear. Like that would be a no-no. But at least I got to kind of choose the underwear that I was putting on my body. And it wasn't because, you know, not all underwear is created equal. And not all of them are good for your bits. And being forced to wear garments that are uncomfortable under layers of clothing, that's bananas. Okay, here's a former ex-Jehovah's Witness. You got to hear this because I know it's kind of weird, but I love hearing other people's like demon stories because I grew up with so many demons. It wasn't. There's no demons, but I thought there was demons. Anyway, let's just listen.
Something that is heavily demonized when you're a Jehovah's Witness is the concept of materialism. Once I became an adult and I got married and started building my home, I enjoyed decorating. I like a lot of color and I like a lot of unique things. I would go to thrift stores and find really cool old brass things or just interesting stuff to put into my home because I wanted the place that I live to reflect my personal style and to be some place that I enjoyed spending time. But this isn't what you're supposed to do when you're a Jehovah's Witness. You're not supposed to have a personal style. You're supposed to have the new personality of all the other JWs around you. You're not supposed to have a lot of things in your home, because what happens when the Great Tribulation comes and you're going to be like Lot's wife, looking back at the things you left behind. And I felt a lot of guilt because I did have a lot of material items and I had a lot of things in my home that I cared about, and I certainly didn't want to have to leave behind to go live in the woods when the government was chasing me. And there are so many JWs who don't have homes that they enjoy spending time in. Because I think if you like being at home, you're going to want to have to spend less time out of it. So you don't want to have to go in the ministry or spend a lot of time at meetings because you'd rather be at home.
That is such a good point. If you don't have a sanctuary in your own home, then it's not a place where you care to really spend so much time, especially if you're purposely trying to be piously poor. Intentionally changing what you like simply because you feel like it's going to be looked at as too colorful, too bright, or you have too much, I think is rather silly. You should enjoy your home. Anyway.
And for many Jehovah's Witnesses, they aren't financially stable enough to be able to fill their homes with things that they enjoy. And this is what the organization wants, because you're easier to control if you don't have anything that you're going to be sad about giving up. You're more likely to do what you're told, to go serve where the need is greater in areas that maybe you don't want to have to live in, but you're not going to mourn the house you don't have. You're not going to mourn the beautiful artwork or furnishings that you don't have. You're just going to go do it anyway. Unless, of course, you're part of the minority and you are a JW who is really wealthy and you have a nice home and you have nice things, and you're less inclined to have to sacrifice that, because there are two sets of roles within the congregation when it comes to money. And so I did feel a lot of guilt for a while, because I did have a home that I enjoyed being in, and I had things that I really liked in my home. But after a while, I stopped caring, because my home was a reflection of me and I was really proud of it. And that's what made it ever so frustrating when the elders came in and told me that they thought that I had brought.
I'm sorry I stopped it at the best point, but this part just got me, that people have the audacity to come into your home and tell you how it should be adorned. I'm through the flipping roof at the gall that it takes.
A demon into my home that was influencing me to not believe in the governing body.
Should I, hold on, I should probably rewind it just a second because I ruined it. I'm sorry, y'all.
While I stopped caring, because my home was a reflection of me and I was really proud of it. And that's what made it ever so frustrating when the elders came in and told me that they thought that I had brought a demon into my home that was influencing me to not believe in the governing body anymore. And they told me and my spouse to go through everything and discard anything that was suspicious. Everything in my home I cared about. I wasn't going to go through and start burning things or throwing things in the garbage because they told me to. It was like destroying who I was. When you are Jehovah's Witness, you can have a little bit of your own personality, but you need to conform. And you shouldn't be attached to people or material possessions, because you need to be willing to give up any of that at a moment's notice. And that's why JWs can so easily give up on relationships with people, because again, they're just objects that could potentially be in the way from eternal life in paradise.
Ooh, that nail was hit right on the head. That was perfectly said.
And you shouldn't be attached to people or material possessions, because you need to be willing to give up any of that at a moment's notice. And that's why JWs can so easily give up on relationships with people, because again, they're just objects that could potentially be in the way from eternal life in paradise.
Ooh, that nail was hit right on the head. That was perfectly said. It is so easy to disconnect when you just see everything as an obstacle on your way to your everlasting paradise life. I'm telling you, that's why I love watching other people's content and listening to them unwind their minds, because every once in a while something just clicks. It just clicks. Okay, now this is a different cult that I don't know that I've ever heard of before, but we're going to hear about some of their interesting rituals inside the church.
Have you ever wanted to know what it was like to be inside of a cult? Welcome to my video. Today we're going to talk about the Church of Christ, the Iglesia Ni Cristo, the cult that apparently the whole world knows about but no one really knows about, and the weird shit that they do, part 2. So this is what a midweek worship service looks like. So you walk into the building and you gotta be dressed to the nines because you're presenting yourself to God, baby. And then you gotta sign in. If you're a Bible student, you gotta sign your name at the LOS desk. That would have been something that I would have done if I was actually taught on what to do and if I wasn't just a mascot for the Church of Christ. And then if you're a member, you have to flip your name on this. You got name cards, so you have to flip it because you have to show that you actually attended. If you don't attend 6 times, you get delisted or expelled. Then when worship service finally starts, you all file into the auditorium. You got men sitting on this side, women and children sitting on this side. I just hit myself in the mouth. And you're not allowed to sit wherever you want. No, you gotta fill it from front to...
So it's segregated. I don't mean to interrupt, but how can... Oh, it doesn't make sense. One true God, segregation inside of his holy temple. Please explain how that makes sense. Okay.
Back, kind of like a first in, first out thing in grocery stores. You can't just sit wherever. If you do, you're gonna have a deacon or deaconess kick you out of your spot and be like, no, you go sit over there. Then it's this very methodical type of, you sing, and then you stand and sing, and then you stand and cry, pray, and then you sit and sing, and then there's the lesson, and there's another prayer, and then there's the deacons and deaconesses going around collecting your offerings in the bag, and then they go stand in the middle of the room in like a single file, and then they walk towards and put the offerings in this weird wood box, and then they close it, and then you pray again, you cry, pray again. It's all very weird. And then at the end, there's usually announcements. You're not allowed to leave during the announcements, though there are some badasses that do. Oh yeah, and also like the first in, first out thing, like you can't just leave when it's done. You have to wait for the people who sat down first to be able to leave. So it's kind of like watching the rows get closer to you. It's like waiting for freedom. Now you might be wondering, what the hell is cry praying? That's a very good question.
Yeah, I'm wondering.
And I'm going to show you in my next video, which I'm going to film right after this one, so that maybe like tomorrow or within a few days, I will release that one. It's going to be funny.
All right, so I suggest that if you're interested, you go find this video and find the part 2. I'll make sure that there's a link down in the description, and you can find out what cry praying is. I'm sure you want to know. All right, on to the next video. That was very interesting. A lot of different beliefs that I've never heard of. A lot of rigmarole, right? Just a lot of hullabaloo to kind of make it seem like you're doing something. I said it, and I meant it. Okay, what's our next video?
What's a purity culture rule that you were forced to live by that was definitely not cool?
The Prophet Alma taught that sexual sins are more serious than any other sins except murder or denying the Holy Ghost. Before marriage, do not participate in passionate kissing, lie on top of another person, or touch the private sacred parts of another person's body with or without clothing. Do not do anything else that arouses sexual feelings. Do not arouse those emotions in your own body. Pay attention to the promptings of the Spirit so that you can be clean and virtuous. The Spirit of the Lord will withdraw from one who is in sexual transgression. And people have the audacity to tell me that it's my fault I've had sexual trauma.
Yeah, purity culture causes havoc with how we view ourselves, our bodies, and it causes so much shame about our sexuality, our gender, how we dress. Everything about us is weaponized, especially as a female. You can't dress without being considered some kind of weapon of war or weapon of mass destruction. How about these weapons of mass destruction? Oopsie. Okay, let's keep going.
Please.
I get it. I get it.
Don't even get me started on this phrase. Just be in the world, not of the world. First of all, that makes absolutely no sense. This is one of those peer pressure phrases where it's like, if you're not acting weird enough for the Lord, then you're not really a Christian. So if you're fitting in with your peers in any regard at all, that's wrong. It's the perfect phrase to keep you in line, though, because somebody in leadership could use it in any capacity, in any way, shape, or form, because there's no way to tell whether something is of the world or in the world, or if you're being of the world. There's no way to tell, so they can use it in any way they choose. If they just don't like what you're wearing, doing, thinking, feeling, believing, then they'll slap this onto you and make you feel shame and get back in line, slave, you know?
Ooh, yeah, that was deep. I hadn't really thought much about that, but being of the world or in the world is so hard to determine, and you find yourself doing that whole reset of a new personality every day. At least I did, just trying to, okay, today I can do better. I won't talk to people at school. I won't be as friendly. I'll try to be more humble. I'll dress more appropriately. Oh my goodness, the hoops that I would jump through are astronomical. All for what? For no reason other than obviously just control. There's nothing wrong with having friends at school. It's okay. It's safe. It's normal. But like our friend here said, they want you to be weird in like a different way, that you have to make sure you stand out and are different from their group. So you're really just, it's so hypocritical. It really is. Because being different is intentional. It's an intentional difference. It's intentional to set yourself apart. And I don't see how that's a necessity of worshiping your God, to have to separate yourself and not be able to associate with other people when you're meant to love everybody just as Jesus did. I don't get it. Anyhow.
Strange rules we had to follow in the cult I grew up in, part 39. So you know those meals where everybody brings a dish to share? We were not allowed to call that potlucks. We had to call them pot providences, because providence is a situation that God sets up for your benefit, whereas luck doesn't exist at all. Some of these rules are so fucking stupid, I can't even wrap my head around it.
Oh, Jehovah's Witnesses know all about not being able to say good luck. Now, I'm not sure about the potluck, but I would assume that the rules would stay the same. Now I'm going to have to ask some of my friends. Make sure you let me know in the comments. Were we allowed to say potluck? Now I can't remember. Don't you love superstitions? Being superstitious of superstitions is very superstitious. Well, I happen to find these videos insightful, funny, and they make me feel like I'm not alone. Well, everybody, I'm glad that you were here to watch with me and to see that there's nothing wrong with asking questions. Deconstruction isn't always easy. It definitely is a journey, but it is much easier when you have friends to go along with you. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you soon. Bye.